Hello again, friends. This is Joe from the Game Club podcast, and I'm coming back to you with another episode of DLC. And this one is all about the neighbours that you never want to have. So, kick back and enjoy the episode, but before we get into it, I'm going to thank our friends over at Game.Press and the developer Ghost Case and publisher Erabit for the review copy of the demo. Can't do this without you. Let's get into the episode. So the game is called Dread Neighbour. It's a first-person horror game built around a really simple but very effective concept. You're living next to someone, and there's something very wrong with them. The demo itself gives you a really small slice of that experience. You're exploring your home, interacting with the surroundings, and slowly becoming aware that your neighbour isn't just weird, they're potentially dangerous. It's very much a feel of that slow burn, tension building horror space rather than anything too action heavy. At its core, Dread Neighbour is a really solid idea. The whole something's off about the person next door setup is instantly relatable and easy to build tension around. And to its credit, the game really does manage to build a decent sense of unease. It gives you some genuinely uncomfortable moments. And it gives you a creeping feeling that you're being watched or listened to at all times. It's not constant fear, it's more like paranoia and anticipation, which works really well for this style of horror game. The gameplay in the demo is fairly simple. You explore your environments, you interact with objects, and you trigger events tied to your neighbour's behaviour. It's less about the mechanics and more about experiencing the tension. There was a point where I heard something on the neighbour's side of the wall. It was just enough noise to make me curious, but not enough to be obvious. And I genuinely hesitated for a second, thinking, do I really want to go and look at that? But that's where the game works best, when it makes you question your own curiosity. There was also a moment where you might not be as alone as you think you are. And it's not handled with a big jump scare, it's just a subtle shift that makes you go, ooh, I don't like that. And those quieter moments are by far the strongest part of the demo. Visually, Dread Neighbour sits into an indie horror space where the focus is more on mood than anything else. The environments are really simple but very effective. There's dim lighting, it feels very claustrophobic, and there's just enough detail to make the place feel lived in. It does a really decent job of building atmosphere, especially how it uses shadows and limited visibility. That being said, this is also where some of the issues started to show. Animations can feel quite stiff. They also sometimes feel quite off with their timing, and they're not as polished as they need to be for a really good horror game. In a genre where timing and movement can be absolutely everything, this lack of polish took me out of the experience. It made me feel like the whole thing, whilst atmospherically quite good, also felt quite sloppy, but not in a broken down way, just more like things weren't quite as tight or refined as they should be. The game does a number of things well. The core idea, as I've said, the suspicious neighbour concept is really cool, really effective. The atmosphere, I think, really is the biggest praise of the game. There's a couple of uncomfortable moments that land really well. This is built on massively by the atmosphere of the game. It's got a really promising foundation. Let's not forget that this is a demo version of the game. And as always with DLC, and as I've said just a minute ago, the game does stumble a bit. There are some technical issues with it, noticeable rough edges that really need ironing out. I feel like if you want this game to be immersive, the animations need to be really refined. They feel quite stiff and unnatural. Also, I think the immersion at points is good. This is once again really helped by the atmosphere, but when things don't quite work, the tension of the game isn't held, and it almost feels like it breaks what the game is trying to build. So, in short, the Dread Neighbour demo is okay. There's clearly quite a good idea here, and at its best it delivers some genuinely uncomfortable, tension-filled moments that show real potential. But right now I think it's held back by technical issues, a couple of weak animations and an overall lack of polish that stop it from fully landing. It feels like a game that's quite close to working, but it's definitely not there yet. For an indie project, it's a solid foundation, but I think in its demo phase is the perfect time to give it more refinement before it can really stand out in quite a crowded first-person horror survival space. That's it. Neighbour. I spent about 45 minutes to an hour on the demo. It's not the longest demo in the world, but it is free at the moment on Steam, so if you want to check it out and you enjoy survival horror and you have a PC, it runs well, I think it's probably worth a go. And if you do try it out, I'd love to hear what you thought of the game. Let us know in our Discord or tweet us on X, that's @GameClubPod. Once again, thank you to the publisher Erabit and the developer Ghostcase for the game, and thank you to our friends over at Game.Press. We couldn't do this without you. My name's Joey Fitz. Look after yourself, have a great day, and as always, God bless.